So in this video, I'm going to show you guys how to use AYCD's profile builder to be able to not only farm your Nike accounts, but also create a system where when you add your Nike accounts, it matches up to your billing information. And from your billing information, you can run the address validator to see if the jig that you have on your account will be detected or undetected by Nike, as well as some additional steps just to make sure that you're setting up yourself up for success for any upcoming drop. Okay, so first things first, what you're going to do is open up the tool, and that will be located on the main screen where it says profile builder. Now when you're met with the screen, of course you're not going to have any information in here. Mine does, right? What you will do is you will start the creation process of your billing info. Now there's two ways that you can do this. Option one, which is a multi-step process, but it's very useful if you have several profiles. Okay, so you'll create one, so you'll select create, you'll add all the real information that you have in here, and then you'll press save. Once you've done that, it will look like something like this. So of course this is a test, this is not real, but this is what it would look like. Once you've done this, you'll click and you'll export it to a CSV and then export. Yes, here it is. So we're going to double click this, and there we go. All right, so now that we've double clicked it, it's opened up. Now here is where you would fill in the rest of the details. So whether if you're using Ron's editor like I am, or if you're using Trio, or if you're using Office 360, doesn't matter. This is basically a Excel sheet, Excel CSV that you'll be filling out. Okay, so you'll fill out all the information, all your details, profile name, etc., all the way through. And then what you'll do in the email section is you'll want the email to be your Nike email address. So what does that mean? If your if your Nike account is say polar@gmail.com, you will also set your billing email as polar@gmail.com. Now the reason why you would do this is because you want your accounts to connect and match up with your billing information, so you can use those two together. Okay, and you would do this for every single card that you have available. You'll make sure that they match. So if the next one is chefs@gmail.com, that's the email of your Nike login, then you'll make sure that one of your billing lines is chefs@gmail.com. Okay, I think you get the idea. Now once you've filled everything out and you've added your Nike account emails in this section, you'll save it. Once you save it, you're going to need to come back to file. You'll go to import, you'll select CSV, and then you'll import it. You will have to locate obviously where you save that file, but once you import it in, this section right here will be met with a bunch of different types of billing profiles that you created. And those billing profiles, their email addresses will be the exact same email address as what the Nike sign-in would be. Okay, I'll show you why in a second. So we'll pretend that this is what we just imported in. Okay, now the next step for me would actually be to make sure that my jigs are done correctly. Now if you've done the jigging ahead of time and you've imported the information, then of course this process is not going to be needed, the jigging side. If you have not jigged, then I would recommend you look at the jigging guide, jig your profiles that you have in here, and once you've done your jigs, you're going to step over into the account section. Now in the account section, you'll just be met with this, but what we're going to do is we're going to come over to the account side, and in the account side, we're going to start adding our Nike accounts in. So you're going to select file and create. If you want to add them in individually, you would do it through this avenue. If you have lots of Nike accounts and don't want to do them individually, you'll select import. In the import section, you can set up a category. We're going to call this test for this video. And then for your store, you're going to select sneakers. Now, here's where you would toggle on match profile by email. And by doing so, every Nike account that you're going to be pasting in here to import will now automatically match up to the billing information that you had added over here. This is why it was important to make sure that the email address in your billing is the same as your Nike account email address. Okay? You'll select the group, and then now we're going to copy and paste it. So as you can see, it's asking for username, password, as well as proxy, or you could do the format that's listed over here. Either or is fine. So for demonstration, I'm going to bring over a real Nike account and I'm going to post this. And then we're going to select import. But let me fix this here. Oh, import. Okay? Now, of course, because this real email is Ryan887 blah 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 all the way through is not the same as what I have here. I'm just going to quickly edit this for demonstration. There we go. Perfect. Here's my test. Let me make sure that they match up. Excellent. So here's what you would see if done correctly. The profile section is going to show up right here, right? So my username, this is my Nike email, is Ryan887, and then my billing profiles email is Ryan887. So now they've both been able to match up together. Once this has been done, I can proceed to the next step, okay? If you have a bunch of accounts in here that haven't matched up and you're making corrections, by the way, you would just match them up mass over here if you wanted, okay? So going back on track here, you're gonna pop over to the play button. And in the play button is where the magic will happen, the next step in your magic. So we're gonna select create, Nike US. Here, we're gonna categorize it. I'm gonna call this test. You're going to select the account category. So in this situation, it's our test group. Now you have sync proxies to accounts. I'm not going to toggle this on. Why? Because if enabled, anytime the proxy is updated on this task, it will be synchronized to the account and it will override the proxy that's been set up on the account. I don't want to do this. I want the same proxy that I already imported it in with to remain on there until I decide to remove it. So we're going to leave that. But we will be checking off use proxy from account because I want the proxy I imported to be used. Now, assuming that these are brand new accounts, we're not going to toggle on use billing profiles from accounts because this is going to say that whatever information is saved on the account already is what's going to be used. No. We want to fill this out. Match profiles to account by email. We're going to toggle this on because we want to match them. Browser type, you can choose Google Chrome or you can choose Brave. I like Brave because it's less CPU intensive and the security measures are higher, so it leaves less tracking when it comes down to visiting Nike's website. Billing information, we're going to make sure that our group is selected, so my test group, and then this is it. I'm going to press create. Now that I've created it, as you can see here, I have my IP address, I have my account, and then it's created a task. So now, if we want to validate our address jigs to make sure that our jigs are good and it's not going to get detected by Nike, you can simply select validate address jig and it will go through the validation process. Now, if I run this right now because I put in a real address, of course it's going to go undetected. Let me alter this a little bit and pretend that the address is a bit jigged, okay? So go Peace portal derive. We'll do this, okay? So assuming that that was one of your jigs, now we're gonna validate to see whether if this jig is good or if it's bad. So pay attention to the screen and then also pay attention to the status. It's gonna log into the account first. And my IP just got blocked. All right, let's try a different IP address. All right, I just switched out the IP. Let's give this one more shot. Do note that this will probably happen to you as well too. The IPs might get blocked during this process, and this is because Nike's just upped their security. So you have to be very, very careful with how you do this. If your IP gets blocked, just put it on cooldown and and revisit them later on. But just fired it back up again. Should work this time around. We're processing a request. This is where the browser is just trying to obtain cookies from Nike. It's completely normal. So just allow it to work through this piece right here. Okay. There it is. So you see this phone number right here? I want you to keep this in mind. I'm going to revisit this in a moment. Now login is successful. It's going to start to add the billing information. And let's see if it'll detect it as a jig or not. Now, just for your guys' knowledge, what would that look like? Is basically when Nike spits out a suggested address, then that means that it's detected as a jig. If it doesn't spit back that there's a address recommendation, then it'll be, your status will come up as successful, jig not detected. So just something to keep in mind in case this test goes positively as opposed to negatively, which is what I'm trying to demonstrate. Oh, there you go. It did not detect it as a jig. So I could sit here and waste our time by altering the address until I get jig detected, but I think you get the gist of it and kind of how it works. So ultimately, if the address you've put in gets detected and it says jig detected, what you're gonna do is you're just gonna go back to the address again and you're gonna redo your jigs slightly a bit by making alterations to how the address print is. And you're gonna take it from there. One thing to keep in mind though is that each line is allowed a maximum of 35 characters. So don't go over 35 characters, okay? That's one thing. The other thing is I mentioned, pay attention to the phone number. What you're going to want to do after you've done all this and you're done with basically what you will see at the end of this video as we're wrapping up, you're going to make sure that you take that phone number that's on that Nike account and you're going to paste it where you would have had this phone number. Because I mentioned on our call before, on our calls that we've done for Nike before, is that you need to fly under the radar and consistency is key. With consistency being key is you also want to make sure that the phone number is the same as the one that you have on file. So at some point when you're redoing all of this and you're recreating and you're making sure that your jigs are valid, etc., you're just going to replace the phone number you brought in with the one that you have on your account. Okay? Same thing goes with first and last name. You can also match it up to the first and last name of the account itself. So if the account's first and last name is John Doe or Jane Doe, then you're going to set this up as Jane Doe. But this is provided if you live in a place where UPS, USPS, LaserShip, whatever, just comes and just drops off the package without a signature or without any hesitation. But just keep in mind that you do run the risk that if your package gets redirected to the postal office, it's going to be very difficult for you to try to pick up that package if the names are not real. Just an FYI. So, all right. So let's go back. We checked the jigs. There was no jig detected. So this is good. This is now good. Now, if we go back to the tools, the other option we have available in the tool section is clearing and updating the billing. So if I wanted to, what I can do is I can select this and go start. And then what it will do is it will fill in the billing information I have on this account, in this area, onto the account for me. So it's like a Nike filler task that a bot would normally have. You can do that through here. And all you got to do is select the mode and start it. And once you start it, it goes through the process. Now, as you can see here, if you had, let's copy this really quickly. Let me copy this really quickly and I'll show you guys. Let me stop this. Let me go back to profiles. Let me edit this. Phone number in there. Perfect. Go back to account. And let's go back to clear and update billing, so you guys can watch this process. Now, of course, in this situation, I didn't save any information on the account, so this is why you see that there's nothing there. But if it is your first time doing this to your accounts, it will be the same thing. If you're scrubbing existing accounts because you're replacing your jigs and etc., then it would just delete what's on file and it would start to add the newest one that you've added in here. There it is, it's going through. And then the phone number is going to match what I had on the file. There it is. So now this phone number is the same as the phone number that was used to verify this account. They match each other. There it is, billing information added. And then it's going to attempt to add payment information. It's not going to work because it's not a real credit card. So I'm just going to stop this so you can see that. Okay. So that's how you would basically tie them together, jig, validate that your jig is good, and then add your billing information to it. Now, when it comes down to the farming side of things, all you'll need to do is just press start, and it's going to go through generating activity. This is not any different than any other farming tool that's out there. What it will do, it works on its own schedule. So it'll just scroll through pages, catalogs, etc. And then once that duration of time is completed, what it will then do is it'll stop and go to sleep. And when it's time to come back, yeah, it puts on a picture for you through AI generated picture. There it is. It'll do some things on there on your account for you. Once it's done sleeping, it'll fire back up and it'll continue basically where it left off. So super useful tool. Does farming increase your chances of being able to hit? Truth be told, no one really knows, but it is something that I highly recommend testing out and doing, because at the end of the day, Nike wants humans. They don't want botters. And the more human-like your activities are and the more human-like your accounts are and seem, that is you flying under the radar, which will help you remain undetected. Okay? So that's the farming side. A couple of things that I'm going to show you before I wrap this up here is the farming schedule and how you can adjust them. Okay? So if you go over to the settings page, you should have a tab here that says advanced. And in advanced, you'll notice that you have local schedule, proxy schedule. Local is local IP, whereas proxy is a proxy attached. Because we're running the accounts with proxies, you will be adjusting proxy schedule. By default, it's going to run your accounts for activity generation between 5 and 15 minutes, and then it'll sleep between 180 and 360 minutes. And then max concurrently running browsers, mine is set to 10. You can change them to whatever your computer you feel that you want for your computer, or you can set it to 0 so it automatically detects what your computer is capable of opening up. Tuner task startup delays, that's basically startup delays in seconds for tuner tasks. So the settings helps slower computers run tasks properly by delaying the starting of each browser. You can adjust these as you see fit based off of the specs of your computer. If you don't see this when you come to the settings page, it's probably because you have not enabled developer mode. And how would you enable developer mode is you'll come over here and you'll click this 5 times in a row. And there it is. I've already enabled it, so I'm not going to disable. But for you, it'll say, are you sure you want to enable developer setting? And then you'll press yes. You'll press yes, restart it, fire it back up, come back to settings, advanced, and you'll notice that these features are here. You don't need to touch this. You don't need to adjust it. This is just more if you want to customize the experience and how you want it to run. But ultimately, what I actually have personally done, which is how I actively farm, is I have them at 2. My max concurrently running browsers is set to 2, so that I only have 2 running at the same time. Once you save it, you got to restart it. And then I come back to profiles, and I apologize, I come back to accounts, and then from here, I'll just start the activity generator and let it just go do its thing. But that's it. This is how you get it all sorted and ready to go. Now, when it comes down to importing it into your bot, it's fairly simple. You'll go to profiles, you'll go to export, and then you'll select the bot format. Once you've done that, you're going to pop over to accounts, and simply from the credentials page, you're going to copy the information to your clipboard, and then you'll paste them into your bot as you see fit. All right. During this process of copying, just make sure that you select the copy that you select and you edit the copy to clipboard settings. If you take a look at what I have right now, it says that it'll be the username. There's a separator of a colon and then password. Then I have nothing after the fact. This is what it will look like. If you want to add a proxy in there, then you can do a proxy and have another colon as the separator. And you can literally now copy to clipboard in this format to just paste it into your bot. Takes away a lot of the manual labor that you have to do in between that. So that's it. If you got any questions, just let us know. Outside of that, I think this should be pretty useful to get you guys started on where you need to be. Thank you for watching. Have a great evening.